Okay, fantastic. It is 1 o'clock. I'm sorry, noon. And you'll note who's in the room here with us, Sharon. We've got a set of minutes from our last meeting. Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second? Second. Great. Anybody here from the public online? I don't see anybody in person. And I see Deb online. And Kenny, are you online too?
Oh, I'm right here. I'm in person.
You're just a presence all over everywhere, aren't you?
Am I in there?
Yeah, it says Kenny Solomon Groves right at the very bottom.
No, the only I didn't find it. Those are the invites.
Oh, those are the invites.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Got it. All right. Okay, so item 6, the December financial statement review, Mr. Chuck.
Okay, so I'm gonna skip over page 6 and 7. I think everybody here familiar, so you guys can read through it. We're gonna talk about those things as we go through anyway.
Okay.
If we go on to page 8, looking at inpatient revenue, we're talking about compared to budget here. We're talking about compared to the trending in the next few pages. But compared to budget, so we're below budget on inpatient gross revenue by about $600,000. We're doing very well in outpatient revenue. We exceeded budget by almost $1.5 million.
Hold one there. She's having a
Sorry.
hold tight this second.
Share my get the screen.
There we go.
Oh,
All right, have at it.
Okay, and then as you can see, we're above budget with respect to physician revenue by about 500,000, which nets out against RRC budget revenue and shortfall on BOPS. I think Kim and I had a conversation about BOPS, and so because we seem to be, if you look at the year-to-date actual versus budget, also we seem to be behind there as well. I think that was a line item reporting issue in the prior year. So we were reporting some revenues in some other places last year, and this year we've fixed that. So now we're reporting correctly. So next year's budget should be on point. If we go on down to deductions from revenue totaled 10.3 million versus the budget of 11 million. We're running at about contractual plus bad debt and charity. We're running about 44.6 versus the budget of 49.8. So we're beating budget on the contractual side, collecting more money than we anticipated. And as we talked about last month, it changes fairly significantly from month to month based on what the patient mix is like. In terms of salaries and wages.
Could you hold this real quick there? I just had a question about line 15 on bad debt expense. So that number was high for, compared to budget, but also kind of on the rolling 13 month, it was also the highest I think we had on there. Can you talk to that bad debt expense number?
Yeah, it's again, as we've talked about in the last couple of months, our self-pay percent has gone up.
Yeah.
And so that rolls pretty quickly into bad debt. We want to get that off the books as quickly as we can. So that's just a function of what's rolling in as it ages out.
Are we picking up are we identifying the charity care that we should be identifying? I mean, it just begs the question,
Absolutely, yeah. And that's something that I believe is happening, but I will also follow up.
Okay, yeah, you would. Thank you.
So then we're down to total operating revenue. We're at 12 million 8 for the month versus 11.1 million budgeted. So we're beating it by almost $1.7 million. And then for salary, wages, and benefits, 8.6 million, almost 8.7 million. Beating budget there by about 76,000. So we're staying very close in terms of salaries, wages, and benefits, and our contract labor. You can see the one thing that I would point out there is you can see that we dropped the budget significantly in the month. We've been budgeting about 350. We dropped to 98,000 on our budget for the month. So that created a pretty big variance. But having said that, the total contract labor expense for the month of December went up as well. And when Chad and I talked about that, we talked about the fact that, when you've got the Christmas holiday in there and staff are taking time off and moving around and you're both, not only your contract labor goes up, but also your premium pay goes up. So the fact that we ended up in total below budget is very positive on behalf of the hospital. It means people are paying attention. Down into operating expenses.
Could you just hold there one more? And I don't necessarily need an answer right now. And I think I meant to ask this last month and I forgot, but employee benefits are trending below budget all year. Why are we so much below budget there? Given that, we've got, slight increases in salary expense compared to budget, or maybe it's slight favorable, but not on a percentage basis nearly as much. But we have these big favorable swings in employee benefits.
Yeah, the biggest problem is when we did the budget on a spreadsheet, some of the items that should have been accounted for in salary and expenses got put into the benefit line item. So it's a budgeting issue, yeah. So the spreadsheet, we pulled items that are getting currently expensed to salary and wages, we budgeted in benefits.
Thank you. Okay, that'll be that. Thanks, Kevin.
In terms of operating expenses, the things that we've identified in the past month, position contracts have exceeded our budget on a regular basis, on a monthly basis every month. That trend continues. Non-professional medical fees has been below budget every month. That trend continues. Materials and supplies has been significantly below budget. We'll talk about a little bit more about materials and supplies in the later pages, but that continues to trend below budget, $1.7 million on a year-to-date basis. Maintenance and repairs, same thing. It just continues to trend below budget. And then other expenses, and I looked through other expenses. The biggest change in other expenses has been in the freight category, and we've done some changing in the way we're utilizing our freight vendors, and so our cost has dropped fairly drastically. Anticipate that's going to continue.
It's been a concerted effort to move a lot of our stuff into the GPO. That's what we're kind of strategic. And there's been like a 9% shift from non-GPO to GPO until spent. So there's been a big lift on that.
The kicker on all of this, we're $700,000 income from operations. Again, had a month where we've had significant negative interest income. So it kind of blew our month for us, and we're at 197,258 of net income for the month, from 718,000 of income from operations.
Still, the operating income numbers, really good news.
Positive is always positive.
Yeah.
We go on to page 9. Page 9 is a hospital-only version of what we just talked about. Not significantly different discussion with respect to that. Same areas that we just discussed. The physician, the strength of physician revenue, where we are on total deductions, we're at 46.9 versus 52.1 budgeted. So we're doing better in terms of contractual balances of bad debt than we anticipated. Salaries and wages, same. We're nearly $500,000 below budget on salaries, wages, and benefits. And the other areas that we talked about, physician contracts, non-medical professional fees, and other operating expenses. Looking at Wildflower report for the month, revenue was up $1,000,006. Meeting budget by $420,000. Our contractual allowance was $227,000, 14.1%, which is a little bit higher than the budget. The budget 9.3, leaving us at net revenue $1.4 billion versus the budget of 1.1 roughly. So total operating revenue again 1.4 versus 1.1. Salaries and wages, while it's over budget, as we look back, we'll see that it's about where it's trended. It's been in the 440 to 450, 460 range for the last few months anyway. Contract labor. Contract labor has been an area of focus over at Wildflower Court, and last month dropped off, and I can't tell you, apologize, I can't tell you whether it's a function of timing of the payment of invoices or whether it's just an anomaly, but I looked back to see, and last month we were 163,000 contract labor. This month we're at 246, and we've been running about 240 to 250 for the last 12
I can address it. There was some staff transition. We had to act quite a few travels over there. I think Deb has a good plan, and she's working with the staff, so we should see that come back in.
And then total expenses, nothing surprising there. 977, budget of 737. Again, biggest variance in contract labor. So, but they did show positive bottom line for 401,000 versus a budget of 328. And on an annual base or on a year-to-date basis, still beating the budget by a small amount. They're about almost 2.5 million net profit for the year-to-date actual, and just under 2.3 million year-to-date. Move on to page 11.
Yeah, last thing.
Thanks. So Chuck, the reason why that's increasing revenue, is that because of the patient volume in there, or more residents in there? Is that why?
Not but because they've been running consistently.
That's what I thought.
Pretty high volume.
But December is like
It's about 100,000.
just 100,000. I thought it was more than that.
I think again, we'll look at this later, but yeah, I think it went from like a $1,550,000 to maybe $600,000.
Okay, I thought it was. But that still is. Never mind. Check.
No, it's positive.
Yep.
Okay, so page 11 is our elected ratios. And our current ratio is great. Our days in accounts receivable still coming down. And one of the things you're going to see later is that we're working with Tammy to create a plan to bring that AR down. We still got a lot of old self-pay AR sitting there. It needs to be moved down. We're going to get a plan together that's got a timeline in order to do that. Days accounts payable 27. Just very good, maybe too good.
Too good.
We might need to stretch a little
A little
bit.
bit, yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm focused on other things right now. That's something we need to look at.
I get you.
Days cash on hand at 113. Still going in the right direction.
Yeah, it is.
Trending upwards. Profitability margin, again, we're trending upwards. We're better than a lot of smaller hospitals. Excess margin above the benchmark, EBITDA above the benchmark, all again trending in the right direction. Age of plant doesn't move much. We're at almost 20. That's not great, but we're trying to get our arms around that. I just had a discussion with Mark this morning about doing some additional tracking, put some mechanisms in place to be able to know when our capital assets are aging out. And our debt to capitalization, 53.8. It's kind of back and forth, but I think it's trending in the right direction as it is debt to operating
Through the chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Shelley.
I just want to say I really like the format of having 4 months so we can really see the trends. So thank you.
4 quarters.
Very
Yeah,
well.
it really is nice. This is great.
Very well. Just an interesting point, because the movie says 34.9 is a great debt to cap, is where we ought to be looking to be a debt to capitalization. I Googled it to see what the national average is. National average is like 83%.
Is it really?
It's horrible. So.
Wow.
Ours is probably better than that. That 38 million of that's PERS. So that.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because it's a total long-term debt back to it with that PERS liability.
That's correct.
So we take that out.
We need to show that. If that's the case, can you do the ratio to exclude PERS? I just want to see revenue bonds in there.
Yeah, if you do that, we're significantly better than the 25 range.
That's what we should, because that, the PERS liability, first of all, it swings like crazy. And secondly, it's extremely long-term. I mean, those are, go out in the 2070s.
Yeah.
So could you
Yes, sir.
back that up?
Yes, sir.
I did have a question about the bonds. We've got, some of the bonds are kind of older now. I'm sure now is not the time to refi bonds.
I thought they refined a few of them before we got that new issuance. I understand.
Well-
I'll have to look back at it again.
Yeah, I'm looking at the footnote actually right now. And, there's the 2013 and 2012 bonds are still, and not now, but, maybe in a year from now or something like that, you just take a look at, what the options are there. But, okay. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Yeah. And actually, when I look at this average age of plant and with this, kicking off this,
Yeah, project.
yeah,
It'll bring it down. We'll start getting that depreciation.
but also looking at where the pinch points, what parts of the hospital are the oldest and need the most update. I assume that will be kind of a natural outflow of this facility planning, right?
Yeah. So after the ER, I'm guessing they'll bring up the ORs, the next one. So that'll be part of it.
And I don't know a lot about our infrastructure, but I mean, typically you got to look below the ground and behind the walls to see where you really are in terms of.
Yeah.
Usually a hospital is 50 years old. We start complaining about the infrastructure.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're still removing asbestos, so that tells you how old we are.
Yeah, all right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the next few pages are trending. You're talking about trending. So let's just start at first, page 12 is hospital only. And you can see where we're going compared to last month. So I want to kind of look month over month. So our inpatient revenue came up almost 6% from the prior month. And outpatient revenue came up 9%. And our leaving total revenue came up about just over 8%. Our other revenues are our box revenue again came up in the month. Our actually came up significantly in the month, although the numbers are small. Our physician revenue came up again about 10% in the prior month. Remember, there's about a 3% swing in there between 30 days and 31 days, but we also did have holidays.
Yeah, because I usually just send it to me when I do it.
Going on down then to deductions from revenue. So our deductions from revenue flowed fairly evenly with our gross revenue. Our gross revenue was up 9%, and our deductions from revenue were up almost 11%. Month over month basis, our net to gross percent was 45.9. Our 13-month average is 47, and our December was 47. So still below budget, still doing well. Total operating revenue then 6.5% over the prior month. our salaries, wages, and benefits did go up. They're up 8.2%. Then the kind of the key month over month issues, physician contracts went up fairly significantly this month. Medical professional fees went down this month, almost 14%. And materials and supplies went down about 5%. So those are kind of big ones that we talked about. And then again, the interest that we looked at interest because we wanted to look at that calculation and make sure the 500 was right. I may have already talked about this, but basically the calculation was that it was negative 1.5% of 35 million. So that's where the 500 came from.
Gotcha.
On to page 13, which is the consolidated similar trending in total inpatient revenue. So we're about 2% below the 13-month average, which makes sense, but we're 5% above the plan. Outpatient revenue, we're 5% above the 13-month average, 9% above the prior month. And then in terms of total gross patient revenue, just about 2% above the 13-month average and 8.3% above prior month. So again, at this point, I guess we would expect that we're trending in the right directions. Down to operating expenses. Again, significantly up in terms of the 500,000 to 866 in terms of contract labor. So very significant increase there. 21% above our 13-month average. In terms of total salaries, wages, and benefits, we're tracking very well. We're 8.2% above the prior month, but we're about 2% above the trend. So we're still with it. Find the same thing in terms of operating expenses. Physician contracts have increased. Maintenance and repairs are staying below, trending below our budget and trending below the prior months. And operating expenses we're talking about as well, just largely.
That bump up in the monthly insurance is, and it obviously started with the new fiscal years. So we must have had some sort of rate adjustment or something, Joe, on that.
You know, like it's passed out as they get the new practice and everything. It just gets passed over to us. We have physicians and stuff throughout the year. They go and it's just included in our lump, and that's we pass that year and they get the new rate.
Yeah.
We also started adding, like we added Dan Hart, we gave him an independent policy, which is going to be expense bump based on that bump. See another bump as we add Dr. Wellberger, as we add ophthalmology. Some of these things just start taking it up.
Yeah. And remind me, we've got a stop loss. We're self-insured. Is that right?
Yeah, through the city. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, so we're part of the risk pool.
Yeah. We're part of the risk pool. What's the limit on that? Do you know what
Well,
the?
we have, so we're part of the risk pool. We have NAG Mutual that covers like the first 1 and 3.
And it's right.
Then we have an excess 2 and 2.
Yes.
And then after that, anything else about that, we go back to the risk pool, I guess, for additional.
Gotcha. So that's first dollar. That 1 and 3 is first dollar coverage.
Yes.
Okay, I know we're going pretty quickly, but there's not a lot of change from
This is
last month.
great, Doc. Thanks.
Page 14 is balance sheet. Not a lot going on there. What I would point out, one thing I would point out is our AR is down $2 million. That's positive. It's going down for the right reasons. You see that inventory is up about 500,000. When I went back and looked at that, we paid in late in January invoices for pharmaceuticals purchased on the last day, about $600,000. So that's gonna wash out in January. But that's where the increase is from.
Okay.
Not a change in plant and equipment. You can see movement between construction in progress and buildings and equipment. We're moving assets as we can to the apartment category. And then down in the liability section, really the only significant change that I see is our crew expenses. And I think that's because we're doing a better job of identifying and accruing expenses that need to be paid on the balance sheet. So we're 177.21 of total assets and same total liabilities and fund balance with almost 79 million in fund balance. Page 15 is the trend of that, of what we just talked about. Again, you can see our inventory change, our change in cash. They are going down about 28%.
Yeah, that's good to see. Long-term trend looks good, Joe.
So page 16 then is your inpatient days.
Mental health, what happened in mental health inpatient?
Would that be an issue?
So we had some staffing challenges between providers to be able to provide coverage. And so they intentionally kept the volumes down until we could get the nurse practitioners contracted on board. And so both of them have now been on board. So I think their current census now is 10.
Oh, great. Okay.
So it's trending up. They just had to keep it down because they didn't have providers for call.
Just for, looks like a short period of time in December.
So they
It ran a little bit into January, probably about mid-January. 9, 10.
And as you can see, our obstetrics unit, which fluctuates significantly from month to month, was up in the month of December.
Heidi Hall gave a bang-up presentation at Rotary Club on Wednesday. It'd be good to have her give that to the broader group. She did a great job and is such an advocate.
For Bartlett, she was really good.
What was her presentation on?
Education,
Yeah.
OB and what she does and what OB does down there. Just really talking about how community centric they are to make sure that the mother is really well and the family is well taken care of. She just did a great job.
Yeah, they do a really good job. We're really lucky to have that level of expertise in a small hospital. like this.
It's really amazing. Yeah, absolutely. The long-term, she was talking about the long-term trend, the decrease in babies, possibly going from 5 to 4 rooms over there.
Right. Well, I think the other thing is, they've been seeing a lot higher acuity of patients coming in. So they've had some really tough cases that are just the run of the mill, deliver and go home the next day. They're really fraught with complications.
And they find a lot out there. So
Some weren't able to manage here. We had a case recently that was pretty gnarly, but they were able to stabilize and manage here, having a plan to medevac if needed, but we didn't need to do that. But, Jess and that whole team, they train and train and train and
Yeah,
train.
she talked about that.
Just on, Jessica is planning another training of kind of like the high risk, low use frequency machines like our Belmonts, and although they've been used a lot lately. But having people kind of time them and say, because in the moment you're in a rush, you need to get those fine motor skills under pressure, under pressure. But that's one of the things the Joint Commission highlighted when they came into survey, was they were impressed at all of the training that OB does. And it's really imperative for our community because we're getting all these mamas from other areas that may not be able to make it to Anchorage to specialized care.
Right. Yeah, she touched on that too.
one thing too that's really great about her is, she's from Juneau. Her parents are from Juneau, and then she went away to school and then came back here, and just a perfect example of what we want. So she just.
Her dad was at the presentation and he was tearing up. Our photos. Sitting right next to him. His dad's a friend of ours, so. The other thing she said, what I thought was interesting, was that there's Coastie families that come back to Juneau after having been transferred away somewhere. And they'll come here, crash with a friend for 30 days to have their baby back to your apartment. I mean, that speaks pretty highly about the quality of service, you know? So that was good to hear.
And considering they have, I think, 7 of their nurses right now that will all be delivering in the summer.
Oh, really?
Walk around and every nurse is pregnant. They want some days.
Also speaks to the quality of service, but of course they would not want to stay here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so exciting, but also. That's timing, bad timing.
Yeah, family planning could be better, is that it?
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't make you think, you know, she was talking about the number of families that came in from, or, you know, from southeast to have their babies here, but, you know, you kind of wonder how many of those families are going south or north. And, you know, if we did a little bit of, you know, foot stomping on the ground, maybe we'd get a few more of them in.
We could have done that. We just need to get some of that data and figure out how we capture it.
Yeah.
With Virginia Mason now on board, they're going to start sharing some of their data, so I can figure out
Oh, really?
whatever's going to that.
Yeah, great. Okay. Thank you, Ken.
So the next page is out, page 17, outpatient volume. Really, you can see volumes going up. Therapies were all down in December, which I think would probably be expected, but everything else is up. You can see the mammography, as we anticipated, came screaming back in December. There's page 18 is your visual of the census in
That's great. Yeah.
Wildflower Court. So I see where we began, where we're going.
Yeah, good trending there too.
Page 19 is breakout. I think probably what's important there is to look at where we are with health and hospice. See our net patient revenue. Wildflower Court we were talking about, but home health at 67,000 and hospice at 30. And versus their expenditures at 68 and 43. So close to break even on the home health side, 12,000 short on the hospice side. But again, those are very recent. And year to date, our shortfall is 243,000. Those are just tough departments. We've got to figure out how to ramp that business up without ramping up expenses.
You know, one of the things that is a carryover from all our work last summer is the 5-year plan around hospice. And
Yeah, the chat after these kind of got over, we went over, I started resolutions on my desk. I know it's something we didn't get them.
yeah, and I think also it's, you know, that we're gonna have the folks from Juneau Community Foundation that'll be asking for that too. So
We start all together. We do have some headwinds. I don't know if all the board members are aware, Heather Rector gave notice. Her husband's getting transferred. He's in the Coast Guard.
no.
Yeah, so we're going to be Kim's, search for a new director of home health and hospice.
Oh, no.
Which Heather's been great. You see her out in the community all the time, so I think it's going to be a tough one to replace.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's at least gave me enough notice there. She doesn't think they're going until the summer, like July, but she hasn't gotten that date for sure yet. They were hoping to stay here, but we've been talking, have some plans in place. There are some nurses in that department now that are interested in applying for like the nurse manager. Because at first we kind of broke away that piece of having a nurse manager and just made one director. But there's someone that's interested in doing kind of that manager piece and then someone that's interested in doing the director.
Oh,
So we're just kind of having conversations around that to see if that would be a good fit. But then, of course, you've got to backfill their roles.
Right.
Currently, they're having some staffing crunches because a couple of people transferred. One of the people that did every weekend call got transferred also with their family.
oh, geez.
So, yeah, so we're doing some brainstorming on how to try to get the message out and being creative. Even, say, I asked her to post a position just for on-call weekends for hospice and home care, just to see if some nurse out there might just want to take call for the weekends. And then, so we're just kind of doing a little creative stuff, throwing it all out there, seeing what we catch. But And she'll stay on, the plan is to have her stay on remote in some capacity to help still provide that support.
Oh, yeah.
And she'll be able to focus more on the billing and the kind of the quality piece that we've been needing to really address. So she'll still be connected to us somehow for that historical knowledge.
Yeah.
Of that, helps provide support for these coming.
Too bad. Sorry to see her go.
I know. It was.
But the notice is good. I mean, 6 months notice gives you time to.
Well, she told me into November
Oh, shit.
that it was a possibility, and so I've been living with the anxiety.
Yeah.
And then she finally told, then she found out about it.
I'm just an accountant, but I think she's a good, hard one to lose.
Yeah, right.
Page 20 is your training of FTEs.
So any story there?
Yeah, I think the story is the same. I think December, because of the holidays and the way contract people move in and out, it's a tough month for us. Like, it doesn't concern me as long as we understand that we got to be thoughtful about where we are going forward. As we, there are a lot of people, a lot of open positions out there that we need to be really thoughtful about whether we fill or don't fill, and the timing of filling those positions.
We still,
I know half the positions have the increases due to just filling open positions. And so that was the actual FTEs was just getting some of these open positions that have been open for a long time. So what me and Kim talked about was trying to set, we have these FTEs and all our current open positions. What's our high water marks? We understand. There's a potential out there if we filled every position, our FTEs could go up, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think the other thing I would recommend is, I apologize because I'm in the middle of an implementation and trying to crunch a budget, but when those things soften up a little bit for me, I think we really do need to set some productivity standards and set up some KPIs so that we can do monthly and weekly tracking on those to kind of make sure that we all understand if something's going out of whack, that we catch it early.
Yeah. Kim?
I was just going to mention that we still meet, the FTE committee still meets twice a week. And we go through every position and do we need it? And every time there's somebody transfers or resignation, we look at that role to determine, can it be absorbed? Can that role be absorbed within somebody else's? Do we really need to fill it? So we still are looking at that. As Joe said, we need to kind of hit that, like this is the no pass zone.
Yeah.
For us to make sure that we hit core in our places that need it. So we have another target.
Gotcha.
And then the next page is the same information with only wildfire core FTEs.
Yeah. Okay. Any other different story on this one, or is it just more the same?
Yeah, I think she's, her goal is to have all this hospital beds filled. And so there's been a lot of turnover there lately, and she's trying to fill it with employees who are going to be steady for her. So she's not overfilling right now. She's being thoughtful about how she is forward.
There's some small tweaks I think she's done to care to make sure we have. So we'll see a slight increase. I think we'll have a better care product over there. Kim should probably talk to that later.
Yeah, through the chair. So she's, whenever she kind of took over and Deb used to work there before. And so when she took over and we listened like the CNAs and what the challenges were and what the staff was experiencing, there were some gaps of things that weren't happening that really need to happen for the residents. They're still getting great care, but it could be better. And so she has some ideas on how, for example, sometimes there's 4 people in one home that needs to be fed and there's, not enough hands to go around to do that. And so to create kind of this like internal, kind of like the hospital has a resource nurse to create like this resource person that could help and do like home attendant stuff that can help with, bathing and taking people to the bathroom, or that can help if there's an emergency or something. And so she's got some really creative ideas to have kind of this floater within the home so they can go and put out the hotspots and help support. So like if there's a call in, and then one of the other ideas she has is there's, one of the nurses, the MDS nurse, but also that nurse also kind of wants to get involved in resident care more than just data inputting. And so she's looking at moving this other nurse into that role to help support her, but then both of those nurses would be able to be resource nurses for the nurses. So if a nurse said, or an LPN, hey, this, I don't know if I need to call or if a resident needs to be transported, or, they can go in and kind of do a second set of eyes and help be that support to determine, does that person really need to come to the ER or maybe just a call to their provider. So she's got a really good plan. And again, as Chuck said, her goal is to have all those beds filled.
That's great. Do we have another group of CNAs in training right now? And how many are in that?
There's 6.
6 or 8.
8, I believe.
And when did they graduate?
They should be testing.
We just started last week.
Oh, they just started. Okay.
Yes.
How long is that? Like 8 weeks?
Yeah.
Have we had good recent results on getting people online from that?
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
interesting, there's one of the local programs are having some challenges with their CNA program, and so we're seeing a lot of that push come to us.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, we've had, and it had really good success. One thing that Jen has identified is, what we did is we said, okay, all CNAs, everybody's going to Wildflower Court, everybody's going to Wildflower Court. And they do for a while, because that's the only place they can work while they're not licensed, right, or they're waiting to test for that 120 hours. But what we're finding is that people, you have to have a passion for where you work. And so some people have that passion for long-term care and some don't.
Yeah.
And so really trying to, meet in the middle and say, okay, well, could you really want to go to med surg? That's great. Would you be willing to float back over here? And trying to really balance that instead of focusing, because what we found when we did that is people were, like, we're just going to leave. Like, I can't do this. And so it's like, well, don't leave. Let's find a place on the acute care side for you. And so I think she's got a really good thought kind of plan going forward to, talk to folks. What would you, yeah. And so, because you have to enjoy what you do to stay in your role. And so,
We won't keep them. I think they go work at Fred Meyer's for $25 an hour. Yeah. Great. Okay.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the budget calendar, page 22.
How are those dates looking to you, Chuck?
Those dates are looking pretty tight.
Pretty close now.
On the upside, my wife is actually here right now, so the upside is after she leaves this Monday, my weekends will be pretty open, so I have lots of extra time.
Right. There's 2 more work days till Monday.
Yeah, we'll definitely, I'm making good progress.
So I want to just look out to that joint meeting was set for the 7th. Is that right?
That's correct.
And
We have to have this submitted to the CBJ on the 14th, which is the day of the board retreat.
right.
We didn't want to have to get it approved that day, so that's why we have that special one earlier that week.
So is the preliminary budget just so that they can fold that February 28th kind of seems, what's the value of that?
I mean, we have massive changes from one to the next last year.
Yeah.
So I told them, like, I'm not even close, but here it is.
Yeah.
And they took it.
So it'll be the same thing.
It'll be the same thing. It'll be.
So
there's
really, the
giant-
target is the 7th of March. I mean, effectively, right?
Well, he has to have his packet ready for you guys and posted before. So that's,
Oh, true. Yeah.
I don't really want to have, after the 28th, I want to be pretty solid. Changes.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is it's a lot more settled down than it was last year when you were working on it,
yeah, I mean, it's just, we have a nice base to work from now. Some of the things I'm gonna work with Chuck on in a couple of weeks is as we look at some new programs like growth in orthopedics and other opportunities that might be in front of us. I want to make sure we have some budget dollars in there.
Yeah.
Joe didn't have a CEO that was financially inclined to help him last year like I did.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Get that boy in there to put some numbers around, yeah. So I'm just curious, when we look at the schedule, you also have this implementation going on, and where are those? I mean, you must have some kind of critical dates hitting there too.
Yeah, we're in decent shape. We've got a test environment that's already in place. And
Sandbox.
we're working in and out of it. We're training in. The biggest problem is right now, is that we still need to hire a controller. We've lost an AP clerk last week. Chris is gonna probably leave this summer, so the people that are, we got.
Chris is gonna leave. I don't remember her asking me permission for that, Chris Miller, who happens to be online. Okay.
So, the small number of people that we have being trained right now,
Yeah.
a lot of them are
Gonna be gone.
going to be around. So, that's really the issue for me, that's a scary thing for me, is getting people trained up so that everybody understands how to use the system. And,
To Chuck's point, have you had a chance to dive into that controller salary number that we talked about?
We've looked at that. There's so much compression. If I start doing that, the number gets out of hand. So I have Chad and his team working on that with leadership level positions. Because it pushes into, becomes an issue.
Yeah, the market is still really pushing up though.
Yeah. I know, and we're trying to come up, we do this intentional. If I move one, and then I don't have a knee-jerk reaction and adjust everyone else around it. I want to do this stuff.
And we do have, I've got 2 interviews set up for Monday for controllers.
Oh, really?
And another one that will probably get set up next week. So,
Are they in a house? I mean, are they in town?
so 4 candidates right now, 2 are in Juneau, 2 are not in Juneau.
Okay. All right.
Okay, on to. So one of the things that we're going to talk about with regards to the audit firm.
Can I interject something right here, Chuck? It's something I want to bring forward for budget consideration. I want you guys as a committee to weigh in on. In 23, the city gave us $2 million based on their financial struggles and us being in a way different position this year. I would propose or ask for consideration that we start looking at some kind of payment plan over the next 3 years, but some kind of number in the budget for 26.
Fair.
I mean, I look at the city's numbers and they're terrifying when I look at their financials. I mean,
Yeah.
they're going to slip into where we were here shortly.
Yeah.
And so if we can do something, I think it sets us up, next time we're in trouble, they're going to be more inclined to side to it.
Agreed.
So I want to build these relationships.
So just for Dr. T's, and maybe just to get some stuff in the record for this. So for FY24, the city gave us $2 million as a transfer, basically to help cover the fact that we were bleeding cash. And it was extremely helpful and on point. And so, if we can, repay the favor, it wasn't intended as a loan, it was a transfer. So there was no strings attached for us to repay it. But at the same time, we're one city government and we're in a little bit better position now. So $2 million divided by 3 is around, 670, 660. So is that kind of your proposal that
That's not.
we would commit to them that we're going to repay it, but we're going to take it a year at a time?
Yeah. I mean, if stuff switches and we're not in a good spot, we have the ability to tap the brakes. So we're committing to 1 year at a time.
Yeah. Shelley, thoughts?
I'm processing. I know we're going strong, but is there anything in the future that there's a possibility of changing that with search, starting something going sooner, et cetera?
Yeah, that's a great question. One way to look at it too, obviously Joe brought this idea up to me, and so I've had some time to think about it. And so far this year, we are sitting on a positive bottom line of $6 million. And that compares to last year, a $5 million loss, over $11 million ahead of last year. But that $6 million, you could probably assume that it's at least going to be equal to that by the time we get to the end of the year. We're not going to, we're kind of on a trajectory. We're probably, we could lose some money January, February, March, I don't know, but, by May, we'll turn it around. May and June will be positive. And so that $6 million, 600,000 would be about 10% of that. And I think it's reasonable for us to just look at this year by year and say, we want to do this over 3 years, but if something comes up, obviously we'll have to regroup, in a future year. So what we're really improving is the idea of $2 million with really the budget authority to do this year, correct? Yeah. I don't know if that helps allay that kind of uncertainty, which I feel too, Shelley. I mean, I hear you on that.
Yeah, no, that makes me feel more comfortable if we'll evaluate it each year and make that decision. I think
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
works.
we can tell the city it's our intent to repay the $2 million, but obviously we got to be careful in how we go. So Dr. Tingy.
That sounds reasonable to me.
Okay. How about if we do,
I know I'm not on this committee, but I have been involved with this a little bit. So Joe, first of all, I think it's a great idea. I think that us showing the city that, we're willing to help when we're doing a little bit better, that if we ever do come into a difficult situation again, I think it's going to be easier for us to have an ask for the city. So I think it's really important that we do this. And, Shelley, your concerns, I think, are really valid and really legit. But like I think Max explaining it, that this is the whole $11 million turnaround is just phenomenal. I mean, and what these guys have done. And, the city was kind of skeptic of us making these changes and coming up with these core situations and stuff.
Mhm.
So now that we're showing that we're showing some success here, and now we want to repay something that we didn't have to repay, I think it's really going to go a really long way. And I'm really glad you thought of that, Joe. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
how about a motion for an action item for the board on that? So Shelley, do you want to make a motion that something along the lines of that you move that we pay 1/3 of $2 million to back to the city as part of our FY26 budget? With our intent to look at repayment of the remaining amounts in each of the succeeding 2 years.
Okay. I make a motion that we pay back 1/3 of the $2 million the city gave us for financial year of 26, and then to 24.
Yeah, we're
Come
gonna give it
on.
back to 26.
Okay. Yeah, in 26 for 24. Got it. And evaluate each year to determine to give back additional money each year to meet the 2 million.
Perfect.
Second that motion.
Great. Okay. Did you get that, Sharon? Are we good to go?
Yeah.
All right, we can look at it again when we do the minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, Joe?
Not much.
I think it's a good idea.
So page 24, there were some items on the letter noting some significant deficiencies. So I just want to address them. I think they're,
Let's see, the 24 in the packet that we have is the spending authority.
Yeah.
Did we not get the?
that's the next book.
Was that in the packet? Because I don't remember reading that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's on the last, on page 30. So let's do the spending authority first. And then we'll come to audit later. Next.
The delegation of spending authority policy was initially brought to the full board last month, and after talking to Max, we pulled that off the agenda. And I had a further discussion with him. The major changes that you'll see in here is in A2. As you look at the changes that are in there and the track changes, the big one is the change in A4 and A5. In A4, we increased the amount from 25,000 to 50,000. That is for settlements involving patient financial services. So some of these, we have some of these big cases that are for cruise members that could be, hundreds of thousands of dollars that are staying there. And then they'll come back and they'll want to pay Medicare rates, and they're non-contracted. So we'll have this big settlement that will be within this amount. So as care gets more and more expensive, this just naturally goes up. And versus bringing back every single one of those to the board. this allows us to take care of more of those by ourselves. The second one is the change to A5. And we brought this from, I think it was 25,000 to 100,000. And the change was made because in line 2, I'm able to appropriate amounts above the budget up to $100,000. So I just moved A5 to be in line with A2 and A3. So those have $100,000 kind of as a, I don't want to call it wiggle room, but as the threshold for those two.
Joe, could you
Through the-
just speak? Oh, go ahead, Shelley. Go ahead.
I had a question. So how often does it happen with the settlements for patient financial services? Is it weekly, monthly?
It seems like we're getting a string of them in the fall after cruise season, so they'll take months to settle. Some of these they'll stagger in. We negotiate each one of them on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
It's not all the time.
Yeah, that was one of the questions that I had that I wanted to push. I wanted to get a sense for frequency on this. You know, are there a ton of things that we're suddenly not going to see as a board? And it doesn't sound like there are, Shelley. But that was
Okay.
my chief concern on this whole thing. So,
No,
yeah, go ahead.
as we have our budgeted capital option at $100,000 mark, I mean, I would bring that back to the president. If we have to make changes and I'm buying stuff in the short term, I've also had an A6 in here. Some of these things are emergency, right? Like something breaks and Kim comes like, hey, we need new OR beds. We're not be doing surgery. I'm buying new OR beds. I'm not going to ask for that.
Yeah. Yeah, the other question I had was in D and E, changing it from kind of specifically named positions to the management scale. And so, Joe, could you just kind of talk to who's in D and who's in E, kind of in general terms?
Yeah, so D basically contains kind of the executive pool. So that's a smaller list. That's going to be me, Ken, well, I'm in that pool as well, but I'm specifically listed elsewhere in policy. Executives would be Ken and Gail and Chuck at this point, with Chuck being having his own separate list. There's only 4 people technically in that DB range today.
Okay.
The majority of them fall in the E range when we're looking at directors. We used to have this long list of all the names on here.
Yeah.
As times change, a lot of those become irrelevant as people leave and we have to switch legal positions at the end, of the day. So this is just saying, hey, everyone within this range on the DBM, which would be considered a director, just falls within that. So if I change the title to somebody, I don't have to change policy. And it just keeps it simple for me.
Okay.
And you can see the list on the track.
Yeah. So any other questions from the committee about this one?
Those were mine.
Dr. King, you want to make a motion on this for the full board? We need a motion, don't we, or no?
We need a motion to move it to the full board. Now we need an action.
Yeah.
So. That's the motion that's written out.
No, you gotta just make it up. So you're basically, you're moving that we approve the.
There's a movement on the screen.
Oh, we should got it up there.
Okay. I move the Finance and Audit Committee of Bartlett Regional Hospital approve the proposed changes to the delegation of spending authority as presented.
I second it.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, now check it out.
Now we move on to the page 30. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead there.
That's all right.
So during the audit phase, they mentioned a couple of things. There's capitalization of leases, which we will follow the ASME standards, inventory count procedures, which had some incorrect inventory counts that happened during the accounting process, and the self-pay collection process. Honestly, we don't anticipate a merger in the future, but we're going to take any mergers will plan appropriately and get the accounting squared away before we get to that point. In terms of the capitalization of leases, I'm putting that on myself or any other CFO to just be aware and do a regular monitoring of the leases that are coming, that are changing, renewing, et cetera, on a monthly, annual basis, to make sure that on those leases we're following appropriate accounting policies. That's just something that's an area of focus to see if that's and with respect to the inventory process, unfortunately, miscounts do happen. Typically, the way we do is again, we have to plan as well as we possibly can. Part of the planning process is that we make sure that items are items, boxes are boxes, bushels are bushels, and so on and so forth. So that the counts happen, and then you have your accounting staff, which I know here is pretty minimal right now, but your accounting staff goes behind and tests counts. And also not only test counts, but looks for things that look funny. So we'll get a written procedure in place for everyone to follow, so that everybody's doing the same thing, so that and we'll make an extra effort to make sure that on an annual basis that there's a process put in place, written process put in place that outlines what planning needs to take place before we I think part of the problem is that we ask a lot of people in the hospital to count for us without giving them a lot of appropriate instructions. So we got to get that stuff in writing so they can figure it and they understand. Look back if they need to. So we'll get all that done. And then the last item, self-pay accounts, where, as I said, Tammy and I are already talking about we'd like to plan to get some of the self-pay accounts off the books.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yeah.
So we went through the RFP to select a new audit firm, and they posted the notice to award yesterday. Through the process, the notice went out for us to select Ag Bailey. This is a firm I've actually worked with in the past. They're out of Boise. They're healthcare specific. So all they do is healthcare firms. So I think they'll bring a lot of value to what we do. So like this one that inventory item Chuck just talked about, that's not something they'll look at. They'll look at the materiality in it. If there's not material change, this is a nitpicky finding in my mind. And so just side comment, I guess.
Yeah, I do have a few questions.
Material change?
It was dollars.
Yeah, it wasn't 12 months.
So
That was my biggest question.
one thing that's not on here that I would like to move it to the front burner is cash management. They had a comment in the audit about, detangling us from.
Chuck might have an update on that. Yeah, we've actually come to an agreement that we're going to set aside an account specifically for the operating expenses of the hospital, and it will be used for hospital. So it'll be a sweep account, so it'll sweep in and out every day. But yeah, we're in agreement about how that's going to happen. We're not very far down the line in terms of making it happen, but we're all in agreement with this.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, it'll be a check writing account, basically, right?
Yeah, all our deposits, all our payroll, and all our people cycle.
Who's going to reconcile it? Good. And
What a sweeping account, sweeping part, you say it sweeps in and out every day.
So it's basically a zero balance account. So at the end of each day, it's the balance is zero. If I write $10,000 worth of checks in a day, they'll fund that $10,000 worth of checks. If I collect $1 million in a day, at the end of the day, they'll sweep that money out. So it's on. So we're getting credit in and out, but we're always reconciling back to zero.
so there's the way those work, Kenny, is there's in an FMDA's case, which I think is where the city is, they have an overnight repurchase account. And so whatever goes into that account at night gets invested overnight, comes back in the next morning. And through, it's just a repurchase agreement. So that sweep account so it doesn't have its own balance. And the idea is to maximize interest. So you'll be writing the checks. You will be writing the checks. You'll be doing your own deposits. Okay, so that's good. So what about the interfund account though?
They're not willing to give some of that. So they're going to still have interfund. So like all our health benefits still run through there. All our city trend, some of that stuff they're not willing to separate on just yet. That's what you're asking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then CIP is going to live with them too. So
What was the reasoning for that? Do you know, can you tell, do you know why they opposed to that?
Well, they didn't go into explicit detail. I was just trying to get the small one we did, and we'll take this one step at a time, right?
I'm with you on that. It will save them time. I mean, that's the part that doesn't make any sense to me. If they unwind that, it's a little work to unwind it, but once you get it, if they invoice us, for example, for insurance rather than running it through the interfund account,
Agree.
it'll make everybody's life easier.
And it might be as we start getting this piece, they're like, hey, we can make this change. I think Angie's open to these things. We'll just work with her.
All right, that's great. We're gonna call that a minute. Yeah. The other comment, and actually it's back to your inventory. So this inventory is something that it's an annual occurrence, and it was an annual occurrence. And what it is you get a box of 24 items. Each one of those is supposed to be entered individually into the inventory system. It gets put in as one box, right? Where the opposite happens, they gross them up, right? So I didn't want to get into it that day, but hopefully we won't be doing things like that.
Yeah, you look at the value of just that inventory specifically. So like where the real value is pharmacy.
Yeah.
It's an OR, like our general materials. I mean, that's one of our smaller ones.
Yeah. Did the city run the inventory process? They used to run it every year.
And they came, when the auditors came and did the second accounts on us.
Yeah, but didn't controller's department organize the inventory?
They used to, right?
They don't do
And
that?
this year, LG reached out and said, hey, we're coming on this date, and they coordinated those counts with us. Not only, and so they double counted, like when we're in OR, we're perfect. So where it mattered, we know that where they found us was on the box, the things that cost 30 cents.
With the changeover in the auditor, and also you're gonna have a separate cost report preparer, just be sure that everybody is knowledgeable about the delays that can happen around that interfund account. And also that they're aware about how the cash, is early, so they can plan for that, right? What we don't want to do is get caught with our pants down.
As we went through some of like the questioning periods where they were asking questions, some of that stuff got brought up.
It did.
Because they were talking about what happened last year. Oh, why was it so delayed? Get information. And so that was a point. And so some of the auditors came back and like, well, if you want it by this date, we need stuff on this date.
Yeah.
And so if you miss this
Which is
date,
fair.
we're gonna miss this date.
Okay, great. And then I had one last thing on the audit. Can we get the final audit? Well, all we got was the draft that was issued in December. I haven't seen the issued report.
Absolutely. I don't know if the CBJ finalized.
I'm talking about the Bartlett audit, not the CBJ audit.
Yeah, I thought I sent that to you.
Yeah, it's all right.
I'll
Don't
make sure- I'll
apologize.
make sure we do that.
Yeah. I just want it for my file, so. Okay, so with that, let's see here. Comments and questions. Shelley, any comments? Questions?
I'm just enjoying the finance meetings being concise and done in under an hour and a half usually. So it's nice to know we've come this far.
Yes, that's great. Dr. G?
Due to the committee, so I don't know how it used to be run, but they seem pretty efficient. I agree with that.
It helps when the numbers are positive too.
It's easier next year than last year.
So just by virtue of the calendar, just to get it on here, so everybody's aware, I think, that our next meeting is going to be a joint meeting with planning, and that'll be noon on March 7th. And then it's going to be, is that meeting followed by a full board meeting? It is.
Yeah, there'll be a full board meeting. I think it's the 12th or 13th.
It's in the next week.
It's the next
Not
week,
after that meeting. Yeah, and then we have,
No, I think the full board meeting is on the second, not right after that. After the budget's presented on this, because on the 14th is our.
no, we got it on the calendar. It's the 13th at noon. 13th at noon.
It's Thursday. It's only a half-hour meeting for that budget approval process.
Yeah.
Because we have to notice it, and there's public comment, and so we thought it would separate it from our retreat.
Great.
We don't plan on doing a web hosted version for the retreat, so there'll be no recording.
Okay, with that, thank you for a great meeting. We are adjourned. What a good picture, Joe.
Thanks, guys.
That's your mom. Open the week.
Hey, John.
I
You did a good job on that.
Rachel.
That's great.
So